Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chasing a Murder. And today we have an update on Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. So let's begin with Chad Daybell. Chad Daybell has an upcoming murder trial in April of 2024. And we were talking about the fact, would Judge Boyce allow cameras or not allow cameras in the courtroom? At one point, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, they were supposed to be trialed together. They were severed. So Lori Vallow, and during her trial, cameras were banned. But today we're learning that Judge Boyce is going to allow for live streaming on YouTube on Chad Daybell's trial. Chad Daybell is facing a potential death sentence if he is convicted of murder and conspiracy to commit murder and the death of, his wife, Tammy Daybell, an innocent, beautiful person, and Lori Vallow's two youngest children, the beautiful Tylee Ryan and the lovely JJ Vallow. Tylee and JJ were both found buried in Chad Daybell's backyard in 2020. Tammy Daybell, her remains were exhumed, where they established that her death was not natural, but a murder. Oddly enough, the defense, John Pryor, Chad Daybell's attorney, was fighting to have the cameras in the courtroom. And you had prosecutors saying, no, that's probably going to make things more difficult and more unfair if we allow cameras in the court.
An Idaho judge ruling that Chad Daybell's murder trial will be allowed to be broadcast live next year. Chad Daybell's trial is scheduled to start next April. The judge's decision comes after the defense and an attorney representing media outlets argued for the trial to be more accessible to the public. Prosecutors argued to keep the camera ban in place, saying that live coverage could impact a jury pool or witnesses in the case.
We're not saying the media shouldn't be allowed to report.
The reasoning for John Pryor saying that they need cameras in a courtroom, was interesting.
The reason behind the public trial judge is accountability. The reality is it keeps everybody honest. It keeps the system honest. It keeps the witnesses honest. It keeps everybody honest.
The judge's ruling comes with some guardrails in place, saying the court will use its own broadcast equipment. The judge also isn't allowing photography or third-party microphones in the courtroom.
Thank you for joining us for News at 9 tonight. I'm Brittany Cooper. In our top story, organizations. He ruled that he will allow live streaming of the trial, meaning that the media will not be allowed to have cameras in the courtroom. Also, the court will remain in control of the live stream. That'll be modeled after the one used for Vallow Daybell's verdict reading in an Ada County court back in May. Judge Boyce will also not allow still photos during the trial. Motions were heard about changing the venue and taking the death penalty off the table, to name a few. Judge Boyce will make a ruling on those at a later time.
So a lot of us have been thinking that since Lori Vallow had the death penalty taken off the table, this happened because of a prosecutor's mistake. Was it though? And also, would Chad Daybell have that opportunity since Lori had that opportunity? So that's going to be interesting to see. A lot of people are expecting that the death penalty will be taken off the table at some means at a lot of cost. So why is it important to live stream Chad Daybell's trial? Well, as you know, during the Lori Vallow trial, a lot of people were coming out of the woodworks. A lot of people who were attached to this case wanted to attend the trial, but didn't want to be hound. But that happened anyway. Many people did not attend the trial simply because they didn't want to take the chance of being hound. So this would actually help the Daybell children out quite a bit. They won't have to come out, deal with the public or the news media or reporters. Some of the most shy people attached to this case are a lot of people in the background that's attached to Chad and Lori and Chad's children. A lot of people believe that Chad Daybell's children believe Chad Daybell, that he's the victim and that he had nothing to do with any of this, though they found 3 of the 5 victims in his backyard. In fact, Emma, his oldest, would say, my dad wouldn't do it like this because he's been a sexton a lot of his lifetime. So what's interesting is Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, neither one of them have really spoke out against each other or for each other. Just recently, Lori Vallow was actually extradited from Idaho back to Arizona to face 2 other charges attached to Charles Vallow, who was her husband at the time when he was shot, July of 2019, and for Brandon Boudreaux, her nephew-in-law, who was married to Melanie Boudreaux back at the beginning of October 2019, had been shot at. Thankfully, the shooter missed and Brandon survived. They believe that Alex Cox, Lori Vallow's brother, her angel and protector, was responsible for shooting at Brandon Boudreaux. But as you know, if you follow this case, Alex Cox actually died December of 2019. So we will never get a chance to find out his idea because we know that Alex Cox was a talker. If he was still alive, we probably would have gotten a lot more information than we have today. Back to Lori Vallow. As she was extradited back from Idaho to Arizona, Lori seems to still be trying to look quite pretty for the pictures and seems to enjoy the moment to be trolled and talked about. It really gives you a glimpse of where she stands mentally. We have learned that Lori Vallow is quite the narcissist and dreams of this attention. So, what is she facing while she's counting? I'm sorry, got my words twisted there. 1 count of conspiracy, which happened in October 2nd, Brandon Boudreaux, and then another count of conspiracy, July 11th, for her husband's death, Charles Vallow. She was brought in December 7th at 8:30 a.m. Here's some footage where Lori is being brought into the jail in Arizona. She has, is considered high security, so she'll be alone. Originally, she was going to be flown from Idaho to Arizona, but the weather would not allow for that, so they ended up driving, which was an 18-hour trip. According to witnesses and public statements, Lori Vallow was quite sociable and chatty. During the 18-hour drive, they said that they did stop for gas, food, and a few rest stops to make sure that the Lori Vallow was in decent shape on the trip. She was actually escorted by 4 deputies, one of them making sure that was a woman. They drove down in 2 4-wheel drive vehicles. What you notice is Lori's in her own little world. This is something that she has accepted to be a normal part of her life. She doesn't seem to be upset about it. This is her life now, so she's making the best of it. And she's trying to use her chatty social skills to try to manipulate people and to give her what she wants. That's the type of woman she is. That's what I've learned through my research. You have a woman accused of murdering or conspiring to murder her own husband, her brother-in-law, has already been sentenced, 3 life sentences in Idaho for being part of killing her own children. I mean, that's just even hard to spit out. And her new husband, Chad Daybell's wife, Tammy Daybell. Now, something you can be expecting from Lori is if you watch her demeanor, she feels like this is a game for her. She hasn't lost yet, though she's already lost in Idaho. She's already got, like I said, 3 life sentences. She believes that, in my opinion, off of my research, that she's here to fight and win. Still, she hasn't lost. So she's going to continue to look for loopholes. any type of mistakes, and anything that she can raise awareness and mistakes or whatever, that is a win for her. It doesn't have to be this super great win. The point of her existence is to always prove something or someone wrong. Lori's always had herself raised on a super high pedestal. She uses shunning in order to control people, manipulation, extreme confidence, loads of gaslighting, with a dash of knowledge to get her way. So, where is Lori Vallow staying? So, according to the sheriff, we'll just call him Paul because I can't remember his last name, she will be in isolation. She is high security, and she will be in the Estrella Women's Jail. According to Paul as well, she will be on the first floor in her own pod. A lot of people who follow this case believe that Lori may be quite excited to spend more time with her family since she will be a lot closer to them. It's been 4 years, but she's back in her home state. I would have to say Arizona is more home to her and closer to her family. Today, Lori Vallow is 50 years old, and she believes that she is not a murderer. She said, quote, "Jesus Christ knows that no one was murdered," end quotes. So I'm hoping that, a lot of these people in charge of Lori Vallow and her security and just watching over her and seeing to her justice, that they understand what they're dealing with. This is a woman that will pretend to love you to death while trying to bury you alive. I've learned through research that I really don't believe that she loves anyone. I don't think she has. I think everybody is just a tool for her. She wants to, but she just doesn't have it in her. She loves herself far too much. She had a lot of respect for Charles. But at the end, Charles was fighting to help her and only ended up deceased. So, he knew that he was dealing with a mentally ill woman. I think he's known that his entire marriage. But I don't think he realized that he would not be able to control her or just how dangerous she was. And we all know, after Joe Ryan, just how dangerous this woman is. According to what we know at this time, Lori will remain in this women's jail in Arizona until she is fully prosecuted. We know that she still has appealed the murder convictions in Idaho, and now she's dealing with proceedings in Maricopa County. Once this case, and she is trialed for these Brandon and Charles, they still have to decide where is she going to spend her lifetime. According to East Idaho News, Nate Eaton, he says that it's going to be the county attorney that will have to determine where she will actually spend her time. It's really going to be interesting because we know that Alex Cox isn't here anymore at all. They have speculated that Alex Cox is indeed the trigger puller, but the mastermind would be Lori Vallow. Interestingly, Chad Daybell is not being trialed with Lori for these 2 counts. Also, something people are very concerned about that follow this case is, why is it that Melanie Boudreaux is not behind bars? In my series, Life Beyond the Grave, we're about to approach that, and that's going to point out a lot of things that you guys, some of you might know or may not know, but still questionable and concerning acts by Melanie Boudreaux have seemed to be just a pat on the hand. Is there some kind of plea deal with the Brandon Boudreaux case? Is Melanie Boudreaux going to be a witness for the state? We know that Brandon Boudreaux, the victim, has asked there to be forgiveness. But a lot of people are just shaking their head at Brandon saying, no, you cannot forgive this severe of a case. Now remember, a lot of people believe that the police and investigators in this area for Brandon Boudreaux and Charles Vallow dropped the ball big time, especially Chandler County. The reminder as to why Lori Vallow intended to shoot Brandon, while prosecutors told the judge that they intend to prove that the shooting attempt was part of a conspiracy advanced by Lori Vallow herself, that if Boudreaux died, that they would have access to his money through Melanie Boudreaux. I'm sorry, guys, I'm still collecting a few dates for you guys, but here is a clip of Lori Vallow and the judge having a few words.
On two cases. These are both grand jury warrants. What that means is that the grand jury here in Arizona has indicted you on two charges. The first case is CR 2022-001242-001. You're being charged in that case with one count of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. It is a Class 1 felony committed on October the 2nd of 2019. The second case is CR 2021-001704-001. In that case, you're also being charged with one count of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. It is also a Class 1 felony. That offense allegedly occurred on July 11th of 2019. Now, I do have to advise you of your right to have an attorney and the right to remain silent. I will appoint counsel for you in both cases. I have a court date coming up for you called the not guilty arraignment hearing. Give me just a second. That hearing is going to take place in the downtown Phoenix Superior Court in our Central Court building. And the date is going to be next Thursday, December 7th at 8:30 in the morning. In both cases, you've been extradited from the state of Arizona. You are currently under the jurisdiction of the Idaho Department of Corrections. That makes you non-bailable at this hearing. So you're not eligible for bail in either case. You do have your court date. You know a lawyer is going to be appointed for you. Do you have any questions?
Are those cases going to be combined, or are they going to be done separately?
Well, they are two separate cases, but they're going to be handled at the same hearing.
Okay.
Okay. So you can talk to your lawyer, but they are two separate cases, which means that you'd have two separate proceedings going forward if it goes to trial.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Howell?
Just one attorney, or more attorneys will be assigned?
Well, at this point in time, you're likely going to have the one lawyer represent you at this particular hearing. What the Maricopa County Public Defender does at this point in time with respect to who they assign for counsel for you, or how many lawyers you have, or anything like that, that will be between you and your lawyer.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
So you're saying that will I get to talk to them before that arraignment hearing, or will just at that arraignment hearing they'll be assigned?
Well, typically you do meet your lawyer at that arraignment hearing. Under the circumstances of this case, they may reach out to you before that hearing to have discussions with you. There is also a telephone number that you're going to have on your paperwork that will be able to connect you with the Maricopa County Public Defender's Office.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Vallow. I appreciate it. All right.
Isn't it interesting how she can just stand there and act like she is a normal human being in a normal society, like she's just not an inmate at all, that she's just a regular person? She's able to create these worlds where she can imagine that the truth isn't there. She can create the world she wants to live in. That's part of her problem. So please share your thoughts below of what you think about her extradition. And also, if I can spit it out, what do you think she's thinking? Not feeling too well again today. It's been a tough year. It's been a lot of flus this year. Don't forget to share our missing girls like Dulce. We have no answers for her. And police really dropped the ball on this case, in my opinion. Thank you so much to those of you who like and subscribe and who are very supportive. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.